Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Perry Bush with us today from Bluffton University, talking a little bit of politics, specifically the midterms. You know, it's funny because for 2 years now, we've heard, at least 2 years, we've heard the midterms are coming. What will the midterms do and that kind of thing. Anything surprise you? Do they still hold as much importance going into, 2 years from now as they did?
Well, Jeff, I'm hesitant anymore to make any predictions because American politics is just changing so drastically. Almost all the old patterns we thought we could count on seem to just fly out the window in these last number of years. And the general pattern, of course, is that the president's party, who holds the White House, loses in the midterms. I mean, it's only been one or two contrary exceptions to that pattern in the past 30 years. And so all the assumptions is that the Democrats will lose certainly the House this fall, maybe the Senate. That's much closer. But even then, I use the word certainly, and I want to immediately retract it. What surprised me, of course, is that President Trump's candidates did not do well in the primary elections in Georgia last week. I mean, they did not do well. He was been gunning for the Georgia governor Kemp ever since Kemp refused to try to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election, and Kemp won big over Trump's former Senator David Perdue. And former President Trump was also very angry at the Georgia Secretary of State, Brian Raffensperger. And Raffensperger won also big against Trump's handpicked successor for Secretary of State. So it suggests that Trump may be losing a bit of his grip on the Georgia primary voters, but in other instances, Trump's people won really well here, especially here in Ohio, in which J.D. Vance, of course, came from what appeared to be a third-place finish, the Republican primary, and with Trump's last-minute endorsement, came on and won that Republican primary. So I wouldn't count out the president at all, former president at all, but so far he's had a mixed record of intervention in the Republican primaries. That does surprise me.
Yeah, the other thing we think about, too, is you look at the current president, and his poll numbers are very low. In fact, for him, historically low. And inflation and gas prices, how much does, what affects our pocketbooks, how much does that play into it?
Well, historically, Jeff, I'm an historian, and it affects it a lot. The fact that, in the end, presidents can't really do much to alter gas prices, but the public holds them accountable. Regardless of party, if the economy goes kind of sour on your watch, the public punishes your party at the polls. And right now, the public is in a real sour and anxious mood. The stock market is declining. Inflation, of course, is rampant. What did I read? One statistic says it's costing U.S. households almost $350 a month. Gas prices are high. And that historically redounds badly on the party holding power in the White House, which is one reason why huge numbers of commentators have really said we're going to get a different, Nancy Pelosi's finally going to be done. And, well, she says she's done anyway. But Republicans will probably dominate the House. We're talking, election losses of 30, 40 seats for the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives. And, of course, the Senate is much, much different. But, yeah, the things are not going well. Biden is going to desperately be trying to overturn that and to point in some winning legislative victories in the fall. But knowing these dynamics, it's hard to imagine the Republicans handing him many legislative victories this fall.
We've got 30 seconds left. As a historian, does it fascinate you as much as it does me when you have one candidate that's supported by former president and then another candidate supported by his former vice president? Political watchers have to love that kind of thing.
Yeah, it is really interesting. It's really interesting. Pence, of course, is trying to reassert himself on the national stage. Again, all the tea leaves are way up in the air, Jeff. It's a fascinating period. But to see how it's all going to shake out, for all we know, Democrats could win a substantial victory this fall. I wouldn't count that out either. Who knows? It's a fascinating period, and all previous patterns that we seem to have counted on are just being overturned one after the other as these interesting days unfold.
That's what you say. Throw it all out the window. We'll see what happens.
Right.
Dr. Bush, appreciate it. As always, thank you so much.
Good to see you, Jeff, as always.
You bet. Nice chatting with you. We'll be back after this.